Hello.
Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome to our podcast, Intellectual Disabilities. It's your girl, Mackenzie Lampkins, and I have my
My
co
name
host with
is
me.
Sarah Parker.
And we have a treat for you guys tonight. We have a guest that is dear to my heart. Can you please introduce yourself?
My name is Delia Floyd Carter. Everyone calls me Dee. And this is my chance to be on a podcast with my goddaughter, Mackenzie. So that's why she says
Yes.
it's a treat because I love her.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for being with us, Dee, tonight. The first question that we need to ask you is, do we have your consent to record this podcast and post it online?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Perfect.
perfect. Let's get things started.
The first question that we have for you is, what inspired you to pursue early childhood education?
Oh, gosh. Well, I've been in the education field. I'm 54. So I'm going to say for 54 years. Yeah. Let's say 5 years. Been in it way back in the womb. But I think what inspired me to pursue early childhood education is that I've always believed the early years are the building block years. That's when kids are learning what they're going to use for the rest of their lives. And those are the most important years. It's a time when they're using all of their senses. Every last one of their senses, they're putting the input in to their brains. And it's a concept called tabula rasa, and it's really sort of like that blank slate concept where
Hmm.
we learned a long time ago that it's really not a blank slate. The brain is not a blank slate. It comes out of the womb, it already has some things imprinted on it, but it's still maybe in its um, cleanest slate. So that's not going to say blank slate, but it's in its cleanest slate. And so you have so much room to put information in. So with all of that room to put information in, you want to be in that space where you're putting the best information in, where those brain files that are being made are the best brain files. That's where I want to be because there are
Okay.
so many places that you could be in the space and time of a child. Why not be where you can put the information that's the best possible thing to, so when they're 18 they say, wait, what about that brain file I had when I was 1, when I was 2, when I was 3? Yeah, I want them to look back and pull my files out.
Is
Okay,
that why
yes.
Is that
You can
why
go.
early childhood interventions and diagnosis of intellectual disabilities like autism is so important?
Yes. So the earlier that you are able to come up with a diagnosis, the better it is, because early intervention means that you can start to build the preventions in earlier. The later you wait, you're missing windows of opportunity. So believe it or not, you can always work to improve where a child can build independence and build abilities. But in those special windows of opportunity, when they miss those windows, it makes it harder for them to improve development. So if, let's just
Okay.
say, there's a window for something from 0 to 1, if they miss that window, yes, can you do anything at 2 and 3 and 4 and 5? Sure, but it's going to be much harder because that 0 to 1 window, that was their optimal time. So when you know what your milestones are for development, and that's what we learn as an early childhood educator, I know what those optimal windows are. So that's what I'm doing for my kids. If you don't know and they miss it, then you've kind of given them a poor start on their life.
Oh, wow.
Fascinating. That is useful.
Yeah.
What advice do you have to parents who might be listening to the podcast who are unsure about what to do with a child who, let's just say, is 3 years old, just being diagnosed with autism?
So I'm going to say, first of all, to be diagnosed with autism, you have to be at least 3.
Hmm.
That is a standard in the industry. Although you may, as a parent, or especially even just as me, as an educator and as a
Hmm.
person has seen many children with autism. I can tell before 3 whether they have autism. But in the industry and according to the DSM, you cannot diagnose a person with autism before the age of 3. So, if you know that your child is autistic before the age of 3, then you start to put in the interventions. But at age 3, if they get diagnosed, then they begin school. In the state of Florida and in some other states, in the state of Florida, if a child has a severe cognitive disability and autism is considered one of those severe diagnoses, they are mandated to begin school. And the reason why, any severe cognitive disability, they know that they're going to need that extra time. So whereas regularly enabled children don't begin school until 5, they have those extra 2 years to give them that little bit of head start. So you want to get your child diagnosed appropriately. You know how some parents might say, "Oh, I don't want my child labeled." Well,
Yes.
I exactly. I don't agree with that. There's nothing wrong with a label. A label doesn't hinder your child. You see, only you can look at a label and say, "Oh, that's a negative thing." Then your concept of a label is what hinders your child, not the label itself. So
Yeah,
by
stigma, stigma, stigma.
right,
Yep.
the concept of that stigma is what's labeling the child, not the label itself, not the diagnosis. So you getting that diagnosis and allowing your child to go to school at age 3 is a protection for the child.
It can make
Okay.
all the difference, guys. I have experience with this myself. I was actually diagnosed with autism in 2004 when I was 3. And as soon as I was diagnosed, I went to a special preschool program at my elementary school until I started kindergarten and mainstream education. And I did mainstream education from there. So early intervention, I would say, is very important.
Very, very important, essential.
Now, Miss Floyd, can you tell us some like early signs that are scientific or that you said that you noticed before the age of 3, just so the parents out there listening, you know, just won't just push it off as, oh, they're young, or oh, all kids do that, or oh, she'll grow out of that, or
Sure. And if we're talking specifically about autism, um, because autism is a spectrum disorder, so
hmm
you're going to see. I mean, you can't pinpoint one particular thing about autism because it can be anything on the spectrum. Also, one thing that I can say is that the DSM-4, which we're on DSM-5 now, the DSM-4 used to actually separate the different versions or what I call iterations of autism. Like Asperger's used to be separate from
Hmm.
SD, but now in the DSM-5, they're all together. They've put about 4 different forms of, I would say, different diagnoses together into one thing called autism, which I think is a little crazy because these things are separate. And so to just say someone with Asperger's is someone with autism, to me, is different because Asperger's is more on the social side, and a person with Asperger's is still going to have a very high ability for a very high cognitive level, but their social skills are going to be way off. So
okay.
autism is a social disorder more than anything. So even across the spectrum, what you will see is a social disorder.
hmm
Persons with autism don't understand social cues. They will do things that people are just like, wait, that's not socially acceptable. So that
So
is the
even
most
in children very young,
absolutely.
Hmm.
okay.
So that most persons don't mind being touched. So a lot of times when you have autism, you don't like to be touched. They are very sensory because sometimes their skin is very sensitive, so they don't like to be touched, and so
hmm
that's not socially normal. Most people don't mind being touched. They have sometimes their senses get overloaded with sound, so a lot of times you'll see persons with autism, they'll have noise canceling headphones on because they can't take an overload of sound. Sometimes they can be triggered by flashing lights. flashing lights, it will send them up. I remember when I first took my son to school, when he was 3, uh, they would say, I mean, he had never done this before, but they would say, oh, he would just have these fits and he would fall out or he would hit the person next to him with this. And that they say, we don't know what's going on. So one day I said, okay, I'm just going to stand outside his door and I'm just going to peer through the door. And that's what I did. I would peer, I was just peering, I was just watching for hours. And what I noticed is that every time that bell went off, because in the regular school, they would have a bell that would, for the kids to change. But in his
Yep.
class, not change. When that bell said, like, oh, it would, and I'm saying if you were next to him, he was going to hit you. He would just, they didn't notice it
Hmm.
because other kids there didn't react to it. He reacted to that sound and it just pierced through him. But in addition to him being autistic, he had had several surgeries on his ears because when he was born, he couldn't hear. So the two things together just didn't work for him. So,
Right. So it goes back to sensory, like you said, touch, hearing.
absolutely.
Okay. That makes a
Yes.
lot of sense. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I want to get a little corporate business for you. I want to ask about your family business. So what motivated you to open up your daycare?
Well, I'm saying being in the early childhood field,
Hmm.
I know that there are there are deserts out there where and when I say deserts, I mean just places where there are no quality child care centers. That's what I call a desert.
Hmm.
And especially in communities of color, there are lots of deserts where there are just no quality child care centers. So in this day and age, most families are either single families or they are two income families, just because economically that's what you have to be. And when you are a parent, you don't want to put your child just anywhere. Because I love children, because my family loves children. This is just something, it's in our family. It's something we've always done. So when we were looking around, it's like it's these deserts. There's no quality child care. And that was one of the reasons why we opened it and our first daycare. It was back in the 80s. And of
Hmm.
course I was still in school, obviously at the time, but it was, at there were no real child labor laws then. We come home from school, we'd still be working at the daycare, or it was just one of those things that we love children, always have. It's been a calling for me on my life. It was a calling for my mother. It's a calling for my sisters. Early childhood has always been in my heart. It's a part of my life. It's been a part of my family's life. Making sure that in our community they knew that they could bring their children there and be safe. Our center, our primary center, has been open so long that the original children that went there have grown up, had children, their children have gone there, they've grown up, had children, their children have grown there. That's how long we've been in the community.
That's
Wow.
wonderful.
Mhm.
So you just laid out the early years of the daycare. So I want to ask, um, about your personal life. You did bring up your son, my god brother that I love so much. How did becoming a mom to a child with special needs shape your understanding of parenting?
So before I had him, I just thought I was an awesome educator. I did not realize that I was also just a mom. But
Hmm.
having him, I realized that I was actually a mom. I, Parents are soft to their children, right?
Yes.
We just love our children. I didn't know that I could step out of educator mode and get into mom mode. I thought, because I am so educated
Hmm.
and I would always stay in educator mode because coming to my house, you would
Of
walk around my
course.
and it would be nothing but education all around my house. People would be like, "Do you run a daycare in your house?" No, but we're in education mode all the time. all the time you got to run into learning because we're in
Mm-hmm.
100% of the time. So having
It's like it was amazing. You'll have like a light switch and then you'll put light switch. If you had a radio, you'll have radio in front of, a
labels
sign
all
above it.
right, of course, because we always got to be learning, right?
Yes.
So, but with with my son, of course, because of the way he was born and everything that he went through, I was soft for him. And lots of parents, when they have disabled children, they get soft for their children. And you have to, still remember that, especially when you have a person that has a disability, you have to get out of your feelings, because if you stay in your feelings, you won't do what's best for them, because your feelings of just, oh, I just have to, just, oh, care and be so. No, because you have to realize that that person needs you to be strong. And instead of being strong for him, I was just feeling sorry for him. And
Yeah.
that's, sometimes, a lot of times, it's what, parents do. They feel sorry, for their child, instead of just, you know being strong for them. But that is the reason why sometimes, these laws are put into place. So that's why when he started school in third grade, for instance, a lot of times, because he wasn't communicating, he
Hmm.
wasn't speaking before he started school. But because he wasn't speaking, I taught him sign language so that he wouldn't have a problem communicating and he wouldn't get frustrated. But because he could sign, he didn't even try to talk. So when he started
Okay.
school, then his SLP was like, oh, well, usually when they start school, because they aren't able to talk, we would teach them
Hmm.
sign language so that they could start to communicate. But he only signs. He doesn't even try to talk. You have to stop teaching. You have to stop talking to him in sign language because he's not even trying to talk. And I said, well, if I stop talking to him in sign language, he's going to get frustrated. And I'm just going to say she got in my butt and said, listen, you're
Hmm.
just a parent right now. You need to be an educator. Stop being a parent and be an educator. You know good and darn well you are handicapping him from being able to talk. Stop it. I mean,
Oh,
she
so
just,
that's where the mommy bear is soft. Like, no, he wants to do this. So okay.
right. She got in my butt. I'm just going to say it like that. And I cried, I cried. And
Hmm.
I knew I was wrong. I knew I was wrong. I'm not gonna make excuses. I knew I was wrong. And it was hard. It was so hard because he was frustrated because he, was used to talking to me with his hands. And now I could not respond to him because she was like, you better not. And it forced him to do what? Use his words. He had to, because I would not respond to his hands. And he got frustrated, as they often do, because you're
Hmm.
responding, because, but eventually by the end of that school year, he was using his verbal words because he had to. And that is the safety net that the school is. It forces you to get out of your sympathy mode that you have as parents, because that's what educators do. And so, yeah, I mean, there's a purpose for putting kids in school at an earlier age, especially if there's a cognitive delay.
I have a question. Did
Mm-hmm.
your son have to go? I know at least for me, I had to do speech therapy, occupational therapy, hearing therapy because I was not necessarily responding, and handwriting therapy
Absolutely.
for the first, like, I would say until fifth grade. And until third grade, I had to do it both in school and outside of school. Did he attend therapies like that with professionals as well?
Absolutely. 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 Yes. Yes. Definitely.
Okay. Um, oh my God, you're perfect like to interview because you answered some of our questions already and we didn't even ask them. Okay, let me see. Um, what most influenced you in understanding childhood development? Like, can you think of one moment? Because I know that you said that your parents had daycares in the 80s. So was there one moment that if like, oh, okay, I would like to go get my education in this. I would like to take it further than,
You mean like,
working at my
you mean like what made me decide to, pursue this more as a career, is what you're saying?
yes.
Um, okay, so as a career, I'm going to say it'll probably just, I'll put it on my mom, because I will say that my mom was all about, education. So we always knew we were going to go to college, no question. And I didn't go to college for education. That was not my bachelor's degree. My bachelor's degree is in management and marketing. But as we were, working in the child care centers and everything like that, we started teaching the state classes. My mom, wanted us to do that as a favor for the director down at the time it's called Florida Community College. She needed someone to teach the non-credit classes. And she said, well, she asked my mom, could she do it? And my mom said, no, I don't want to do it, but I'll ask one of my kids to do it. So, because I'm all about reading the rules and regulations. So they asked me, would I teach the
Yes.
rules and regulations? And once they asked me, would I do that? I got a bug for it. And I was like, oh, I kind of like that. So
It's something that really fell in your lap almost.
yeah, yeah. And although I sort of wanted to run away from teaching, everything that I did, I ended up teaching. Somehow, everything I did, I don't care what I did, I ended up teaching, somehow training, 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 training. I'm like, why am I running from something that's clearly a calling on my life? And hello, I just stopped running.
Right. Here I am. Okay, so my next question is, what were some of the biggest challenges you faced when advocating for your son in the school system?
So I don't want to trash the school system, but you
Mm-hmm.
know, the school system can be horrendous. So,
Yes.
right, it can. And I mean, there's been a lot of battles back and forth. I've had a lot of battles with the school system. Um, I can say that because I am very strong-willed, that is an advantage for my son. But you have to be very strong-willed. I am the person that will read an entire piece of legislation. I will pull it, and I don't care if it's 300 pages long. I'm going to read it from page 1 to page 300. I'm going to read every little bit of it, underline, highlight, and make sure that I know every piece of it. I am the type of person, when they put out new legislation, I will
Mm-hmm.
start from when they first introduce it and follow it through every iteration of it, through the House and through the Senate, until it passes, and make sure that I know it. I'm the type of person that if I'm very, very, against something, I will go and sign up and say, okay, who's lobbying against this? Let me sign up with this agency, and I will be a part of the lobbying, group against this particular legislation. I mean, I'm very involved in anything that's going to impact, my son. So I'll get involved in that. But if you tell me no, then of course I'm, if it's something that I feel like he's needing, then I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to be able to put on my battle guard and go at it. So that's why it's important for you to know the laws, know what you can and cannot do. And so oftentimes when the school is telling you no, they don't know the laws. They're just telling you no. So I will be quick to say, well, Florida statute, 389.21 says XYZ. And when I put a statute on them, they're just like,
Uh-huh.
what? Right. So don't tell me no if you don't know what the statute is. And then when you tell me no, also don't tell me no if you don't know who I know. Because then when I tell you, okay, great. And then I call Tallahassee and say, wait, now you understand that your local school system is telling me this, this, and this. And I've called who is, because you're telling me about what your district is saying. And here's what the law of the state is saying. And remember,
Mm-hmm.
state law is constitutional. So when I say you're asking me to follow a code of conduct or a student progression plan, that's a local district issue when this is a constitutional issue because Florida statutes are constitutional laws. Don't do that. You're not going to take away his constitutional rights. So I'm very big on my son's rights. And then I have to know them. So I tell parents, know your child's rights. And if you know the rights, not only their state rights, but also even whatever the local laws are. No, I pull the student progression plan for my district every year. And I promise you, I've had to pull it out on them. Even schools themselves don't always know it. So I've had, principals say, well, once they wanted to suspend my son, and they said, oh, well, we're going to suspend him. You can't suspend my son. Well, yeah, we can suspend him. He did this. And I said, oh, absolutely not. Student progression plan says this, this, and this. And they said, oh, well, we've never heard. Well, you better pull it up and see. You don't know. Well, we'll
Right.
have to.
This is amazing advice. No, to parents that just take no's, like you said, or just take what they're handed and they
Right,
don't even know. Because,
right,
like you said, sometimes the schools don't even know.
right. This is
So I love
principal
this.
have to call me back, and he'll have to call the downtown to find out. Yeah, well, you call downtown to find out, but in the meantime, let me copy and paste out of the student progression plan to let you know, because you're gonna get the same information from downtown. Right? He'll be at school tomorrow. What are you talking about? You're gonna call me back about what? Anyway, go on.
Right.
Do you have did your son have like some kind of IEP or 504 plan?
He has an IEP. Yes. Yes.
Hmm.
And I'm going to say for all parents, let me tell you, your child should always have protections in place. You should always make sure that, and especially if you see that there's something that a school does to your child and you realize that it's slipping by because there's not an accommodation or protection in place, make sure you get it added into that IEP or that 504 because you can put those protections in place. So if it slides by, put it in place so it doesn't slide by again.
Like,
Absolutely.
yeah, one thing that I'm curious about that I think is powerful for parents not to do. I was in a class, I was in mainstream education. I was in a class almost every couple days or every day with a different sub because my teacher had to be with her son all the time because of cancer. And guess what happened? I was severely bullied by the people in that class because I was in a vulnerable situation. Do you think that was your son ever in a situation where he was vulnerable like that and subject to bullying?
No. So my son doesn't have the kind of comprehension to be mainstreamed. So he's always been in an inclusive classroom. However, he did have a time when his regular teacher went out on Thanksgiving break. She found out she had Hodgkin's. So when she came back, well, she never came back. So then he started having a different sub every day. Well, kids with autism cannot take a break in their routine like that. They just can't do it. So, being the mother that I am, hated to do it, but being the mother that I am, I signed up to be a substitute teacher and
Hmm.
then came into their classroom to be their substitute teacher until they found a permanent sub because I know he couldn't take that consistent change every day. So I could only imagine how the other children felt. So yeah, I'm just going to get up and get in that classroom and be there every day till you find a permanent sub. And that's what I did.
That is wonderful because having like a sub every couple days and all that, it leaves autistic kids vulnerable because that the substitute barely can handle regular classroom, much less a classroom understanding people's special needs. And
Absolutely.
especially if there's like one special needs kid in a classroom of 20 mainstream kids, that leaves the one special ed kid vulnerable to bullying, which should not ever happen in a system.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm telling you,
Yes.
I been substitute in your classroom and I would have caught wind of some bullying. Oh, it would not happen. It would not
Yes,
happen.
on our first podcast episode, she told me a couple of stories I didn't know. And what I was really happy about was that she had parents that advocated for her like you do, my god brother. So that made me really, 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 really just
Hmm.
happy because some people don't have families or resources to,
Yes,
stand up for them.
yes, yes, definitely. Your parents
Oh,
are your, yeah, that's your first wave of armor. They have to
Hmm.
be stand up for you.
what
Okay.
challenges did you encounter when advocating for him in a medical setting?
So, fortunately for me, as far as medical setting, when he was born, the doctor who the the attending for his NICU suggested who his pediatrician should be,
Hmm.
and that pediatrician came by to visit him the entire time because he was in the hospital from May to September. And all of that time, that pediatrician came by to visit him the entire time once they realized that he would make it out of the NICU. And I said, yes, okay, since he was coming by to visit him, he clearly showed an attachment to my son. He's been going to that pediatric office since then. Um, and he, of course, they can go all the way until they're 22. He's only 21 now. So he's been
Hmm.
going there. So fortunately, I have not really experienced many issues medically for him. I've only had one real issue medically, and that was not with his pediatric doctor. It was really with a urologist. Um, just, she said something sort of off the cuff, with me because, there was an issue that he was having, and I said that I wanted her to resolve the issue, and she was like, "Well, why do you need it resolved? Because it would just be for aesthetic purposes." And the reason why she said it was like, what difference, in her opinion, what difference would it make? Because
Hmm.
he doesn't have comprehension. So why does it make a difference? Because he wouldn't understand. And I'm looking at her like, ma'am, are you, I'm thinking to myself, have you lost your mind? I know you didn't just
Hmm.
say it would be for aesthetic purposes only because he doesn't understand. And I said, yeah, okay. So for aesthetics or whatever you want to call it, we're going to get this resolved. That's why I brought him to you. Now, what do we need to do? Yeah, it just, so that kind of threw me off. But that was really the only time that I've ever had any problems because he's been with that same, pediatric office. And really anything that I come to them and say, this is what I'd like to have done and this is what I need done, they are Johnny on the spot. And like I said, since he's been in the NICU, they've been there. So
Oh,
he's
wow.
fortunate ones.
Yes. So do you think that our global goal is reducing inequalities, not just in Florida or the United States, but around the world? Do you think that a lot of medical, I guess, inequalities happen to older people or, people with
With disabilities,
disabilities? Hmm.
absolutely. I think I think persons with disabilities suffer inequalities all the time. First of all, a lot of them have no way to advocate for themselves. So, because my son has no way to actually speak up for himself, if I were not his voice, then he
Right.
would really suffer from many inequalities. Who would speak up for him? Um, when he transitions, because next year he'll be 22, he'll transition for the first time from his pediatric doctor over into an adult care doctor. Many, 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 many um, persons with disabilities experience uh, inequalities for the very first time in their lives when they transition from pediatric to adult care. So we don't know what's going to happen next year. But I find that transition from pediatric to adult, because I help lots of kids in this situation, that pediatric to adult care can be that soft spot because you don't, you got to find someone who now has all of these disabilities or medicines or need for care and they've been handled here, now they have to find adult providers to handle all of this. So that's a lot that, of changes and transitions. And so now you have to find care providers that understand. So there's going to be
Right.
inequality because are they going to listen to you? Now, there are lots of medical providers, and nothing against the healthcare industry, but a lot of times they don't want to listen. They want to get you in and out in 5 minutes or less, like you are going for an oil change. But
Yep.
disabilities need more care than the usual. For my son, I have his blood run every 6 months. Why? Because he doesn't communicate. So if he can't tell me, I hurt here, I hurt there, my stomach hurts, my this and that, I don't know. I don't want him to have something growing inside him, cancer or, his appendix about to burst or anything like that. And he can't tell me, right? He can't
Mhm.
explain that to me. So I need him to be with a provider who is constantly looking for signs that something is going on because he can't express that. And so the inequalities are that you have to have someone that's extra, you know, observant for certain disabilities.
Okay. All right. So you are an independent woman, strong. I just want to know, what were some of the like resources or people that supported you the most during this journey? Because I know that you talked a lot about what you've done, but have you had that support or that community to help you?
Well, I'm going to say, my son loves his grandparents,
Hmm.
uh, and they are definitely that ride or die for me and him. Um, Even when he was in the NICU, his granddaddy was there every day, never let a day go by without coming by to see his grandson, and constantly. And we only live right around the corner from them. He's constantly wanting to be there, with
Hmm.
them. Um, so that's certainly been a blessing in this, whole situation. There are resources within the community. My son is on the Medicaid waiver, so that's a very good program. I would suggest anyone who has a child that fits within the Medicaid waiver disability, because I think it's 6 or 7 different disabilities that fit within that. If your child fits within it, it is one of the most awesome programs out there. If your child fits within that, I would have my child on that program, especially if your child has a severe cognitive disability and there's a chance that they will never be an independent living person. Because when I pass away, which is a reality of life, I will pass away.
Hmm.
This gives you a chance to build a long-term care plan in place so that I can make decisions for him while I'm alive for his care when I pass away, so that I can feel better about what will happen for him. I have my greatest fear of what will happen. I don't want to see him discarded. I don't want to see him institutionalized.
Hmm.
I I don't want him to be fearful of what his life will be like, or for his life to be given to demise because I'm no longer, around. So having the ability to make those type of plans. Now, of course, I hope that my daughter will care for him. That
Yeah.
is my plan. But you never know what life will bring you. So the fact
Hmm.
that I can make those alternate plans for him brings me peace. And that's important to me. So if you have that opportunity to do that, that's great. Um, I think that there are other resources that are out there that many parents may not be aware of, like creating the ABLE account so that you can set aside funds for your child, doing special needs trust and things like that. These are very important things that you can set aside so that you can make sure financially your child is taken care of without interfering with any of their benefits, because you don't want to take away their ability to receive any SSI, or especially take away their ability to have Medicaid, because his um, his medical care is so expensive. If he didn't have Medicaid, it would be sort of catastrophic financially for me. So it's important to know how to manage the resources that are out there, as well as how to, not interfere with them by planning for his future.
I'm curious about resources. Is your son involved in any programs like Special Olympics or
Mhm.
any other disability programs like that?
Yes, he's in the Special Olympics. He does soccer and he does track and field.
Oh, wonderful. Does he enjoy it?
Well, he used to enjoy it a lot more than he does now. He's getting a little lazy as he gets older. So, so we're in that weird spot. But next year, because of course, this is his last year that he's going to be able to be in school. So next year, I plan to sort of transition him into the Brooks system, so that I'm hoping he will enjoy that a little bit more. So I'm not sure. Well, okay, because you guys aren't here. So Brooks has a system where they do more individual. Well, it's not individualized, but it's more. It's not like team sports, but it's a little different where he can well, they do have some team sports, but he can do more. It's more fitness. What am I trying to say? It's more geared toward fitness, as opposed to they have some team sports, but this is not more like team. So like they have a cycling program, and I think he would like to do it like that more than he does in the team sports like that.
They do have
So,
individual sports and Special Olympics like
yeah.
cycling and all that. I'm an athlete leader. So you're in Jacksonville, so like Duval County area, that's area 4 in Special Olympics, and he can transition into adult programs for Special Olympics, just to let you know.
I've heard, and I'm gonna look into both that, but the way that Brooks sets it up, I don't know. I'm not sure what we're going to do, but I know that I've looked into the Brooks program that they have, and so I mean, just the different options that they have with the yoga, the cycling, the water fitness, just
That's
things like that.
awesome.
I know, and some of it is a little wild because they got the axe throwing and the archery stuff. And I'm like, yeah, no, we're not
That
gonna do
sounds
that.
fun.
We
Right. Maybe not that, but it does sound fun.
yeah, but the kayaking and things like that.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, so I kind of want to look into all of that because I want him to be more active. I definitely want him to be more active. So we're going to look into that, and I want to see about the transitioning to the adult side on the Special Olympics. But I just don't know. He just doesn't seem to like the team sports anymore. But like you said, yeah, they do have some individualized sports. So we'll look into all of it. We'll see what he
Okay.
likes.
Yes. So some of the scholarly articles we read, they were talking about how just physical fitness like promotes confidence with people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, like a sense of self-concept. I know you said he doesn't like the team being amongst teams, but just him doing like physical activity, do you see a change within him when he does things like that and gets up and gets moving and
Well, of course, we exercise every day.
yes.
Every day we leave this house without
Mm-hmm.
exercise. We exercise every morning when we get up, brush our teeth, wash our face, exercise. That's the first thing we do is exercise. Get the blood moving and circulating, get the energy going, and that's mandate. We don't leave this house without that. So to me, I think it makes him happy. I mean, I'd say, hey, let's go get our exercise video. He will take it out, put it up, and we go. I mean, he asked for it. I
So the
am very,
mornings look different. So the mornings that you do work out, the day just does it look different versus the days that you guys might wake up and, oh, okay, today we might not have time to exercise. I know you have some time.
We exercise every morning. We never
Miss a
not
beat.
when I mean, you know, he sometimes will be at his dad's house.
Hmm.
Um, but when we are together, we exercise every day. We never leave this house without exercising. We don't ever not exercise. So I
Okay,
don't what
so
the
that's
day
not even a question.
that's not even a question. We don't
Okay,
leave without exercise.
so what does true inclusion mean to you?
Well, if we lived in a world that was truly inclusive, for me, it would
Hmm.
mean that every person with a disability, and I know we've been focusing a lot on like persons with cognitive disabilities, but of course there are all types of disabilities. So a truly inclusive society would be one that every person with a disability would have exactly what they needed to live with their disability on the same level as every person without a disability, right? So that
Hmm.
means that inclusion would mean we were all on the same level, that we wouldn't know the difference between a regularly enabled person or a person with disabilities, right? So we will all be on the same level and everyone would be able to live their best life, right? And so that to me is an inclusive society, that we don't have to worry, that we don't have to say, oh, or even look at somebody and say, oh, let's give them a hand up. This is not a hand up. See, that's what I always people trying to say. Oh, we're giving them a hand up, a handout, a this and that. No, that is not the purpose of inclusion. That is
Hmm.
not a person with a disability doesn't need you to give them anything. What they need is for you not to hold them back. What they need is for you not to, act as if you did not make the playing field level, that they
Hmm.
could do everything that anyone else could do. See, it's when discount their abilities. That's
Mhm.
kind of why they created the concept of competitive integrated employment. The concept of competitive integrated employment is that they start with the presupposed idea that every person with a disability can be employed, as opposed to the preconceived idea that you maybe can get a job, but not everybody with a disability can get a job. But competitive integrated employment means that if the right circumstances are presented, every person with the disability can be employed. So what they do is they do a thing they call customized employment. They look at a business and they say, you know what, we'll examine this business and we will look for the missed spots within this business and say, okay, hey, you got this business running like this, and this, but here's an empty spot right here. Oh, let me see. In this empty spot, John can fit in this empty spot right here. So we don't need you to do anything different in your business. We got John. He's perfect for this empty spot right here. John fits this empty spot. This is what John loves to do. But you didn't even know your business needed John.
Hmm.
You understand? And so therefore, the concept is open your brains, open your eyes, open your mind. Don't give John a handout. Don't give him a handout. Examine what you got existing right now so that you can see, oh, you needed John all along. You
Yeah,
understand?
that's, yep,
Yeah.
that's the purpose of our podcast. We want to educate people because knowledge is power. And just the more you realize, get out in this world, the older you get, people just don't know. People
Yeah,
really don't know.
They
So,
don't. One
yeah,
of my favorite sayings is break out of the box of expectations. Let people with intellectual disabilities break out of the box of expectations that society puts them in. Because I feel like a lot of times people with intellectual disabilities get placed in a box. This is what you are expected to do.
yeah,
mhm,
absolutely. Absolutely. Or expected not to be able to do. That's the
Yeah.
worst. Oh, you
yeah.
can't do this. You can't do that. I remember when my son first went to middle school. It was really crazy. He went to middle school. We went there to tour the school. And when we got there, we met with the site coach and then the teacher, and I was like, and they said, well, okay, well, what kind of things does he like to do? And so I said, well, one of the things he loves to do, and I said, oh, he just really loves to read. That's the thing he loves more than anything. So if you have books, oh my God, he will read you out of a house and home, and he loves to write. He will read and write all day long. Please don't give him your markers because he will be up on your board writing all day long. And the site coach looked over at the teacher like I was crazy. You know how people look at each other
hmm
like, my God, like
Yeah, that's the talking with your eyes.
uh-huh, like, oh, we got
Hmm
one, like I was delusional. So I see her, like, oh Lord, we got one of those that thinks their child can read and write. So
Wow.
see
hmm
this, and I was like, oh, and so me, I'm gonna call him right on that. Oh, so what you think? My son can't read? And they were like, well, I know a lot of times the people that I said, oh, yeah, he can read. I said, okay. And so I told him, I said, go over there and pick up one of those books. So, and he ran over, he got one of those books. I said, read this book to them. Boom, 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 and they looking shocked. Right. Because of course he can read. I'm an educator. Of course I can teach my child to read. Hello? You know,
Sorry, godmommy, something is going on with the sound.
oh, what's going
It's
on?
sounding, I don't know, it's sounding a little robotic.
Oh, I apologize. You want me to
No,
start
no,
over?
no, it's not you. No, no, it's not you. Let me see.
Is it my system?
I hear you
I'm not
fine.
sure. Okay, I can hear you fine now.
Okay. So anyway, I'm like, hello, of course I can teach my child to read. I'm an educator.
Hmm
You know, so so yeah, I mean they were completely, absolutely shocked that he literally can read. Okay, good. Now, after he finished reading, I said, okay, take these sentences right here and write them on the board. Boom, 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 boom. Wrote it on the board. But then I said, all right, now I'm going to speak some words to you. So he's not looking at it. Write this on the board. I'm just speaking the words so that you can see not only can he read and not only can he write, he can actually spell the words coming out of my mouth. Boom. Okay,
Comprehending, right.
baby, let's go. Right? Like,
That's that's an amazing story because it's important for parents to know that education doesn't just start in a classroom. You should be educating your children at home as well.
of course. Well, that's my big thing is I I'm my child's first educator, my child's primary educator. They go to school. That's great. That's why I don't believe in school grades. I don't care. A school could be an F school, it could be an A school. That's irrelevant to me because first of all, I don't believe in standardized tests. So that's how they get school grades by standardized tests. I don't believe in them. So I
Hmm
could care less what a school's grade is. But if you are educating your child at home, then it should not matter what the school's grade is. You should be more concerned about the administration of the school to make sure that they are um, supportive of how parents are, supportive of their teachers, so that the teachers are supportive of your students, and you should be concerned about whether you have a good teacher for your children. So if those things are there, it shouldn't matter what school grade is. If it's a good teacher, you got a good administration, school grades kind of mean nothing because that just means that a bunch of kids can pass a standardized BS test.
hmm
We have one last question. Do you have anything else you would like to share with us? Final thoughts?
Well, I will say that parents should help parents. If you have a child who has a disability, your best resource as another parent is connecting to a parent that has a child with a disability, but not just a parent. If you have a 3-year-old with a disability and you connect with a parent who has a 3-year-old with a disability, that's great. But you also should connect with a parent that has an 8-year-old and a parent that has a 12-year-old and a parent that has a 16-year-old. Why? Because your child's eventually going to be 8. Your child's eventually going to be 12. Your child's 6. Yeah, you got to make sure that you're planning for your child's future. You don't want to find out what's going to happen in the school system when your child is 8, or find out what's going to happen with a doctor when your child is 8, or find out what all this is going to happen when your child's 8. No, you need to, when your child's 3, you need to know. So you need to know parents in the step order along the way when your child is 3. So don't just make friends with parents at the same age level. Make it along the ladder so that you can start making plans ahead of time.
Wow, thank you. So you dropped so many gems in this interview. I know I learned some things, and I know the parents that are going to be listening will learn a lot. So thank you so much.
You're
It was
welcome.
it was fascinating for me to see the parent side because I know the side of someone who actually has a disability, but seeing the parents' perspective of it, it was very insightful for me.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I enjoyed myself.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so
Thank
much
you
for
for
coming.
thank Yes, so we're gonna sign out. This is Mackenzie Lampkins.
And this is Sarah Parker.
All right. Y'all have a great
All right.
evening.
You
Hold
too.
on.
Bye bye.
Hi. Stop recording.